Frederick Douglass famously said, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will." And in the long arc of human history, there are moments when the universe itself groans and declares, "It's time." Each of you must know that this may be the reason why you were born. Fearsome and illegitimate power and a malignant river of money are attempting to face down what remains of American democracy. When we look back to the text of this nation's founding documents, we find these words: "Whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it." What begun as genocidal violence against Native and indigenous people and chattel slavery imposed upon black bodies has continued for 400 years in policies and practices that have served the rich and the powerful, while they have kept nearly half of us from having what we need to survive in the richest nation in the history of the world. 140 million Americans are poor and low income. 700 people die every day from poverty and low wealth. We know it does not have to be this way. It can be altered. A new and better government can be instituted. Now is the time. This is the place, and we are the people. Now, this isn't about conservative versus liberal. That's too puny. It's really about life versus death. Yes, on camera, we have witnessed terrible, murderous instances of police violence. But socio-political violence has also gripped millions through the interlocking injustices of American inequality. We never see this reality on camera, but it has snuffed the life out of untold thousands. We can't pretend that the crisis we face is about a single individual in office or one political party alone. Far too long, our public leadership has been too comfortable with other folks' death. Truth of the matter is, Republicans racialize poverty, and too many Democrats run from poverty. It's time to say every piece of public policy has a death measurement on the down low. And it's been kept on the down low, but it's time to expose it now. Denying living wages and basic income has a death measurement. Denying health care has a death measurement. We've heard the media ask, when will the protests stop? Since we've launched this campaign, people have asked, what one demand is your top priority? Well, we say, you gave $2.5 trillion to the banks and the corporations. If they can have 3 trillion things, don't ask us what is our one thing. We are not asking for one thing. We are demanding that this nation reconstruct everything. We don't have to choose death. We can choose life. We need to understand that many of the things we are seeing don't have to be. They are bad choices. People in line now trying to get food, bad choices. People without health care comes from bad choices. Money going to the corporations in the middle of the pandemic rather than going to the communities. Bad choices. If we repented of the injustices against indigenous people and implemented fair policies for undocumented Americans and homeless Americans, we could change our present and our future and have a true healing from our past. Now, I know somebody's out there to say, well, did you get that from the Democrats? Did you get that from the progressives? No, got it from the Bible. Jesus said that every nation is going to be judged by how it treats the poor, how it treats the least of these, how it treats the sick and the hungry and in prison. The worst mistake we could make now with all of this marching and protesting in the street would be to demand too little. And as we face a pandemic, we know America has a long history of dividing people, blaming Chinese or the Mexicans or Spanish or the Indians for disease in the past, scapegoating people by nationality. We know the tricks, but we also know when we decide it's time to unite, oh, there's power. There's power when we come together. I don't mean to be morbid, but in this pandemic, we must be honest about the fact that any one of us could be 48 hours from our last breath. I ask you today, if you knew you were going to take your last breath in 48 hours, what would you use your last breath to fight for? We are in one of those moments that demand a poor people's campaign.
Our brothers and sisters are sleeping on the streets. For a country this rich to have so many people poor, it's immoral and it's wrong.
When we throw away more food than it takes to feed every person, not just that's hungry in this country, but around the world, that is not right.
Something is wrong.
That is a moral emergency, and that's why we need a poor people's campaign.
There's other systems here that are oppressing us that voting won't always fix, and that we've got to talk about, we've got to call it out, and we've got to mobilize and build a movement to be able to change these things that our politicians won't always change.
But if you don't recognize us, and then it goes back to that second chapter, that we're the forgotten ones.
Until we are ready to keep this fight going.
Because it's crucial that we make ourselves heard.
Let the people vote! That's how you honor veterans.
When you hold down the poor, you hold down America.
Our backs are against the wall, and we got no choice but to push.
We are building a multiracial, intergenerational, nonviolent army of the poor that will break every chain. Every chain.
And so we have to come to a point that every attack on the poor will embolden our agitation. Every attack on sick folk will embolden our agitation. Every attack on immigrants will embolden our agitation.
We can do more. We can do better. And we're building the power. Forward together.
It's movement time. It's time to shake this nation, because this nation is locked up.
Rise up. Rise up. Rise up.
Get up tomorrow and start the revolution.